It's a limited release.
It's Ringside Report MMA. Tonight on the show, Grasso versus Shevchenko, the rematch coming up this Saturday. Let's go.
Let's go!
Indeed. We are going. We are gone. We have begun. What's up, boys?
What's up, mofo? Oh, you're wearing the Expos hat.
Yeah, you guys are always wearing hats on the show.
Yeah, but we wore Expos
tonight
last
I'm going to wear a
week, man.
hat. Huh?
You're 1 week too late, bud.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's ever too late. It's never too late, all right?
So what's up, homie? What's happening, man? Freddie, you there, man? Get yourself prepared there, Freddie. Take your time.
I'm here, man. I'm just answering my wife on Messenger not to bother everybody, man. Why you gotta be in my business, man?
Just that we're live on podcast, just asking. It's okay, man. But the way you prepared yourself there, man, it looked like you were doing a speech. Getting ready, man. Trump style. Let me get there. Let me say
AJ,
something.
I talked to AJ for about 10 minutes before the show started. And it was a lot. It was a lot. AJ is in rare form. AJ's in rare form already, I could tell. I got a little taste of what's to come with AJ tonight, and yeah.
I'll tell you, man. There's a lot to talk about, dude. There's a lot going on.
Lies and fabrications, exaggerations, and nonsense.
Oof, that's like a
that's on the plate tonight.
That's an ongoing thing, man.
With you, yeah.
Kind of sounds like the elections. But, yeah, man. I'm not talking about that shit. I'm talking about
I miss when you weren't political. You know, I miss the days when AJ didn't really care about politics, wasn't corrupted by the internet, and didn't have a political opinion. That was a better time. AJ's trying to throw in little jokes all the time, elections. You've already said Donald Trump and elections. We're 2 minutes into the show. What happened?
Listen, man, I used to say jokes about Trudeau way, way back, man. Remember I told you I always wanted to box him? That wasn't a joke. I mean, I did know him, kind of.
Yeah.
He hit on my girlfriend back then, but that's
Lior says I miss when AJ was Anthony D'Alessio, our buddy Anthony D'Alessio. Yeah, and then he's like, no, I'm AJ, Anthony Jr.
Man, that's so long ago, but it is my name, AJ, Anthony Jr.
Shout out Lior,
it's Anthony Jr.
Yeah, Lior, Angelo Contagonis, members over at join.ringsidereport.net. Thank you guys for supporting the show, supporting the channel.
Man.
We've got a good one for you here tonight.
AJ here. I am very sorry, Dave and Fred. I am also much younger than the real AJ.
Oh, there you go.
What? This guy again?
Stepping in. He's my favorite AJ.
Do you have a parrot on you or what, man? I don't like that AJ. I don't like AI AJ, man. He freaks me out.
Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso is the fight this coming Saturday. It's UFC in Las Vegas. It's a fight night, but it's not at the Apex. It's at the T-Mobile Arena. So it's like a big deal fight night. It's a world championship fight. They don't usually do these on free TV, but it's on free TV this Saturday night.
I mean,
usually title fights are on pay-per-view, but this is a rare title fight that they're putting on just regular TV on a fight night, which is not bad.
Are you excited about it?
Pretty big fight. Is who excited about it? Me?
Are you excited about this card?
Yeah. I'm excited about the main event. I don't know how excited I am about the card as a whole. I think we have a couple of fights that are fun, but, I mean, it's not the most stacked UFC card. We haven't seen a lot of really stacked UFC cards lately. Last week was no exception. You know, we had a cool main event with Adesanya and Strickland.
Crazy.
We had Volkov and Tuivasa. That was a decent co-main event, but the level of star power dropped off significantly after that. And we kind of have a similar deal. It's a similar deal this weekend.
It was exciting.
What is?
like the card last week, 293 was exciting, man. From the prelims to the main event, man. I found it a very exciting card.
The fights were good, but in the grand scheme of fights, they don't really mean much. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fights were fine. It's cool to see people get knocked out, but if it's two people fighting and they're in the top 30, you know, and they're knocking each other out, it's like, well, that's cool. Call me when they're in the top 15, and then maybe it'll be a pay-per-view worthy fight. Right? When you're having guys that aren't really elite and you pay for it on pay-per-view, it's like, all right, man, we know the deal. This time you don't have to pay for it, so it's, I think, quite a bit better. Better bang for your buck. Grasso, Shevchenko, it's a title fight. I'm excited to see how it goes down.
Again?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a rematch, but I'm excited to see, like, what's going to happen in this one. Does it, you know, does Grasso win? Does Valentina take the title back? Like, it's a good storyline here. Valentina's been a longtime champion. She got her back taken in the 4th round and tapped out with like 30 seconds to go in that 4th round, got a rear naked choke. And Alexa Grasso was the new UFC women's flyweight champion, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history, and she's looking to pull it off again. And we'll get to that fight in a little bit. We got Jack Della Maddalena in the co-main event against Kevin Holland. And I think that's a, you know, decent welterweight fight. Della Maddalena's on a really good win streak. Holland, since dropping down to 170, has looked really good. So, you know, that's an interesting fight at 170. Then you have Raul Rosas Jr., who's like 18, maybe he's 19 now, but he's the kid that the UFC signed, youngest ever UFC fighter, so that's kind of interesting. And then you got Daniel Zellhuber versus Christos Giagos. And I'm, you know, I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Good fighter.
I mean, I'm sure they're all good at fighting, but they don't carry a lot of name value. You know, there's not a lot of sizzle there. It could be some steak, but you got to have some sizzle. And it's, you know, it's not a very exciting card, and that's why it's not on pay-per-view. It's a fight night. It's a very good fight night, but overall, I think a lot of people are going to be showing up to see the main event and maybe the co-main event. And everybody else that's showing up for these other fights are friends and family of these other fighters.
Thanks.
Right?
Yep, pretty much.
Come on. How many Roman Kopylov fans do you know? How many people do you know who Roman Kopylov is? That's what I'm saying. No offense. He's good at fighting. He's a beast. But, like, nobody knows who he is.
Earlier today, I was looking at the upcoming cards. And this card is in front of a crowd. But then the next 3 UFC are at the Apex Center. And I don't know, man. I miss the days of big crowds and big fights. So, yeah, it feels like sometimes some of these cards are understacked. Like they need a little more star power to attract people. But this is a good championship fight. I mean, you've mentioned Valentina and Grasso's first fight. That might be the biggest upset ever. It's one of the biggest upsets ever. And Valentina's getting a rematch. So that in itself should make it worth to watch it.
Listen, things might get heated now that Vince McMahon is, like you said, the executive chairman for the merger for TKO, man. Things might get exciting. That's why maybe this is free, man, for a championship fight. You never know.
What?
But as card-wise, it doesn't go so bad. You got Kevin Holland on there.
What was that sentence that you just spit out of your mouth? I don't even know what you said.
Well, with the merger and things like that, I'm sure the UFC is going to get a little bit more interesting and creative, and maybe fights that are championship fights are not going to be pay-per-views, and they're going to be on fight nights, and things will be a little bit more exciting for a lot more fans that they can capture.
Okay.
Because you got to, pay-per-view is for a selected amount of people that are MMA fans. Right. Fight nights could be just about anybody, bud.
But the merger,
and it gives an opportunity.
The merger had nothing to do with this fight night. Like that's
no, I don't think so. But you never know. It is free for a championship fight. When's the last championship fight that you saw on a fight night?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's happened before, but it's been a while. I can't recall.
I can't even think of the last one. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like you never know. Anything's possible, man.
Maybe the men's flyweight title. I feel like maybe the men's flyweight
check it
title.
up, man. But
yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
But this is going to be a tough fight, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, last week's card was awesome, dude. You know what I mean? We have a new champion. I know you don't want to mention Sean Strickland, but he's there, man.
Why he's
he's ready to go. He's the champion, man. And he fought a fight, man. He fought really well. He fought, man, in control, super calm, consistent. His cardio was there from the first to the end. And, man, he, exposed Israel. It was incredible, dude. A lot of people made, good money if they went with Sean Strickland. Obviously, Drake didn't because Drake lost $500,000 putting it on Israel. But, so did we. We all went with Strickland, with Israel. But I did say, Sean is dangerous, man. If he puts pressure, he can win. And he actually did. He put on a lot of pressure on Israel, man. He just made him backstep through the whole fight. And to be honest, you said it right on our watch-along. In the first round, when Sean Strickland knocked him down, out and silly, and pounded him away, if it was anywhere else, if it was in Vegas, the fight would have been stopped in the first round. That's pretty much an accurate fact. And that's the thing, man. Sean Strickland could have had a first-round victory anywhere else.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the way Israel turned his back, it was a weird way to defend. A lot of times when a fighter's getting punched in the face and he turns his back to his opponent and he's just kind of huddling against the cage, the referee will jump in, but the referee did not jump in there. So, yeah, you could have had a first-round stoppage. I think in some places in New York, might have been a first-round stoppage.
Yep.
But it was a really impressive fight for Sean Strickland, and there's talk of a rematch with Adesanya. I know Dana White said, he was interested in that, but then he also said later this week that might not be the next fight for Sean Strickland, that there are other challengers out there. Hamzat is going to be fighting Paulo Costa. Hamzat is in the mix. I think Dricus du Plessis, who was going to get the title fight, he's also in the mix. So Dana hasn't given the green light to Strickland Adesanya 2. It's not official. It seems like the direction that they're headed in. I think most fans would want to see it again just to make sure it was real, just to make sure Strickland can really do that again. It wasn't some anomaly, some weird fluke of a fight. So I think a lot of people would want to see it again just because it was so shocking that we almost need to see it again just to know, okay, can he really do this, or was it just a one-night thing?
Well, he did it in every round, man.
No, but it was shocking because he was such an underdog. Now, I like the discussion about, is this, the biggest upset ever? I don't know if it's the biggest upset ever. I'll tell you what, man. Juliana Pena beating Amanda Nunes was a pretty big upset. The Grasso Shevchenko was a pretty big upset. Ronda Rousey losing to Holly Holm is a pretty big upset.
Matt Serra.
Exactly. And that's the one I'll say is the biggest upset ever, because to me, I'll say, if George St. Pierre and Matt Serra fight 100 times, GSP probably wins 98 or 97 of those, Whereas Strickland and Adesanya, the way that Strickland defeated Adesanya, it tells me that, hey, if this rematch comes, maybe he has a shot, man. We underestimated Strickland, and he proved that he had business in the same cage as Adesanya. So, yes, it's one of the biggest upsets ever. But in retrospect, I don't think people will see it as that big of an upset. If they fight again, I think Strickland's going to do good again. Maybe Adesanya has a better game plan, but the way he dominated him, it's hard to pick against him now.
Yeah, I think I would pick Sean Strickland to win the next time. I don't think he'd be the favorite, though. I think Adesanya is probably going to be the favorite, but I think Strickland figured it out, and I think Strickland can beat Adesanya. I don't know if it's the biggest upset ever in UFC history. Is it the biggest upset ever in UFC middleweight title fight history? Because I could think of two others that were pretty major that shocked me. when Weidman beat Anderson the first time, that was a big upset, and that was a real shocker because Anderson was so dominant. And then when Michael Bisping beat Luke Rockhold to become champion, like that was a real surprise because Rockhold had just fought Bisping maybe a year prior and completely dominated him. And then, boom, here's Michael Bisping. But I think I picked Bisping to win that fight for some reason, so I wasn't that surprised. I did not pick Sean Strickland to beat Adesanya, and I was really shocked, but I remember how I felt when Anderson Silva lost to Chris Weidman, and I feel like that was the bigger upset, just because I don't know what the odds were or whatever. Maybe Sean was a bigger underdog Vegas-wise, but, man, Anderson Silva was on such a run and was so untouchable that when he got touched and when he got put down, especially the way that it happened, it was just such a shocker. So I'd say, yeah, big upset. It's in the conversation, last week's fight in the conversation, but I don't even think it's the biggest upset in UFC middleweight title fight history.
Well, but Dave, look, you know what? One thing is that if you look at the betting odds, I mean, Israel was such a huge favorite. I mean, such a dominant favorite to beat this guy. The guy was so underrated. And it's funny because, like, I was watching that guy's training camp. Sean Strickland, man, like I told you, I said when he was fighting, man, just his sparring partners, he was not just like skating through. He was devastating these guys. Nobody wants to go spar with Sean Strickland because he turns it into a fight. The guy enjoys fighting, but the guy is very, very good at what he does. Very underestimated, man. Very underestimated. And the thing is that when he came in against Israel, he proved it, man. He proved that he's just not a lucky punch fighter. The guy used a really good strategy, and he stuck to it, man. The guy's fighting was on the mark. The first round was like, holy shit. You know what? That dictated the rest of the fight. Like that first round, the way he manhandled Israel was enough for me to realize that this guy's going to win the fight. You could see Israel was just slowing down. His guard was down. His mouth was open. He had heavy steps. Every time he was getting backed up into the octagon, it was like, oh, shit, this is going to be another takedown or a knockout or something was going to happen. Israel wasn't fighting the way Israel used to fight. He was fighting like fatigue, man. You know what I mean? It was just there was something not there. The thing with Strickland is that he's hungry, man. And if he fights again, he's going to play the same game. I don't think Israel has it in him to take this guy, down and take back his title. It's a different story now, man. I think Sean Strickland is the real deal, and that's the thing. There was a lot of negative press on him with his big mouth and whatever and whatnot, but the guy was moving up, and he proved it on Saturday.
Just for context for the odds, Sean Strickland last week closed at around plus 540. Michael Bisping, when he fought Luke Rockhold, closed at plus 450. So Strickland, Vegas odds, was actually a bigger underdog than Michael Bisping and also Chris Weidman, because when Weidman fought Anderson, he was a plus 210 underdog when he beat Anderson Silva.
That's it?
Yeah,
wow.
That's it. Well, Weidman was undefeated at the time. Like, people thought he might be the guy.
Yeah, but did you think that he can exchange the stand-up game? There was no way. All we were looking at is that Weidman would be able to control the wrestling game and possibly control Anderson if he got the top game.
The thought
That's what it was all down. But no way that he was going to be able to kick and fight. And
the thought was he could do what Chael did, but maybe a little bit better and last. Right? That was kind of the thought. Out-wrestle Anderson, but that's not what he did. He outstruck Anderson 2 straight fights.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, who's in a weird situation right now, I think, is Izzy. Because I think he's been so active in recent years. If I'm Izzy, I'm taking at least 6 months off, man. Just take time to recuperate. That first round, man, he probably got concussed. I'm not a doctor, but the way he got hit, man, there's some damage there. You got to take that time off. And right now, if you look at the matchups for Izzy, if he gets the rematch and he loses again, he's going to end up in a situation like a Max Holloway or something where you lose to the champion a couple of times and then you're not very important in the division. But the other matchup is Dricus Duplessis maybe, and I'm not sure that's a favorable matchup either for Izzy right now. So I think the best thing for Izzy is probably take some time off, let Drykiss or let Kamzat get the next title shot. Let things settle in a little bit in the division. You've been way active for many years. You've earned a little time off. And in 6 months, reassess what's happening. Look who's a champion at that time and go from there. But I wouldn't rush in if I'm Izzy. I think right now, because he's in danger. Whether it's Strickland or Drykiss, I feel he's in danger of losing. And if he loses another fight, yeah, he still is Israel Adesanya. He's still a legit star. But you still lost 2 fights at middleweight, so you're getting far from the title.
Here's the counterpoint to that, though, Fred. Israel Adesanya is 34 years old. He'll turn 35 in July of next year. That gives him, what, 2 more years at the top? Maybe 3 to compete at that level? Maybe. So you're talking taking 6 months off. That's a quarter of what he's got left of his career.
But he's got a point in some sense, Dave, because the thing is that right now, like the way he fought on Saturday wasn't there was something wrong in the strategy leading to this fight. Maybe maybe he has injuries. The fight on Saturday probably did concuss him, on top of every other injury that he might have from that fight that we don't know about. The thing is that I think it's the right idea just to stand back, look at what's happening, reanalyze the fight that you had with Strickland. Take a look at the way these guys fight with each other between Kamzat and the rest, and then come back. There's no shame in it. Yeah, ego is a big factor. Everybody wants to come back to reclaim that title. Israel, I'm sure it's bothering him every minute, but the smart thing to do is to stand back and just observe these guys from a distance and then come. Listen, at 35 next July, he's really at the top pinnacle of his athletic capabilities and performance. He still has enough time to take that title, maybe defend it once and walk away. I think he needs to stand back because these guys they're hungry, man, and they're aggressive. I think, like I said, the strategy just didn't work. Whatever the strategy was against Strickland was obviously wrong, man. I don't know what they were thinking, but it was completely wrong.
I think they just got countered by just a more prepared team. There was, I think Adesanya at some point told Strickland after the fight, your coach saved you in there because Eric Nixick, who was in the corner of Sean Strickland, was giving Sean everything that Adesanya was about to do, all the counters, all the everything. Yep. He was just kind of predicting his movements, and Adesanya could hear him, and Adesanya realized, this guy did his homework. This guy knows exactly what I'm about to do, and he's getting Sean ready, So it's tough to execute something, when a guy's like, watch out for the right hand, it's coming, and you want to throw the right hand, but that's all the guy's waiting for. There are certain things that Adesanya was doing, certain patterns, and Sean Strickland's corner, they were dialed in. They knew exactly what he was doing, and that helped Sean win the fight, I think, a lot. Sean's preparation, everything he did, the cardio, his toughness, everything he's done up until this point in his career helped him win the fight. Maybe it was an off night for Israel Adesanya, or maybe Israel Adesanya is just a guy who's 34 years old, been fighting for a long time, and is near the end of his career. That's also a possibility.
Listen, Dave, that's a strong possibility because, not to jump the card yet, but the Valentina fight is probably going to be the same thing. I think these fighters, there's so much wear and tear on them as champions, and they've gone through so much. Even Valentina, when you look at her MMA record, there's a lot of fights that were in her career, but then she also has 59 kickboxing fights. You don't think about everything else these people have done outside of the MMA scene. There's a lot of wear and tear. But, going back to Strickland, he was so smart. He was training even with Pereira, and Pereira was coaching him how to throw that right when, at certain points when he can connect on Israel, and it worked. That's the difference. Leading up to a fight, and you know what? I'm going to go back a couple of steps and talk about George St. Pierre. George said something that was really interesting. He said back then, compared to today, you have a lot of ways to see footage and get footage and analyze footage and whatnot. George, back in the days, what he said that kept him above his competition was the fact that he realized that video and dissecting the videos and rewatching videos and seeing exactly how these fighters fight and their style of fighting, their mistakes, their key things to make them win was what made him know the fighter before the fighter started. He knew exactly what they were going to do. That's what made George so dominant. It wasn't about his fighting martial arts skills or his spirit of martial arts. It was his understanding and preparation for war, man, like a true general, man. And that's what was amazing. And that's what Strickland did. And I don't think Israel's team went as deep into Strickland thinking that this guy was nothing more than a brawler and he's going to come in rough and we're going to like just control him and gas him out. And we're going to, I mean, everybody prepares, but some people prepare a lot more than others. And I think Israel's camp wasn't as prepared. And you can see that. 5 rounds, man. He got lucky.
What? Who got lucky?
He got lucky. Israel to go the 5th round, man. He was lucky, dude.
Okay.
Well, let's be honest, man. The first round was...
He got hurt. Yeah, for sure.
No. Yeah, he got hurt. But...
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Let's get into the fights. This weekend. Grasso and Shevchenko, since you mentioned it already. Let's get into it. This is the rematch. Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso. Valentina, the longtime champion, 35 years old, with a 23-4 record, taking on Alexa Grasso, 30 years old, 16-3. This event built around this fight. Alexa Grasso from Mexico. This is UFC Noche, and it is on Mexican Independence Day. It is being billed as UFC Noche, UFC night, and it's happening this Saturday. A lot of Mexican fighters on this card. It is heavy in Mexican talent because they're pushing this as a show for Mexico in a lot of ways on Mexican Independence Day. And Grasso is headlining, Mexico's only champion currently in the UFC. And she has won now 5 in a row, including that rear naked choke, neck crank, whatever you want to call it. She had her back, she squeezed, and she made Valentina tap out in the 4th round with just under 30 seconds to go back in March. The question is, can she do it again? Right now, Bet99 has the money line at Shevchenko minus 170, Grasso, the champion, plus 145, the underdog.
Man, I'm going to go right back to what I was saying earlier. There's so much wear and tear, and you can see that Valentina was just having a hard time. Her stand-up was not even close to Grasso. Even with the submission in that 4th, it wasn't anything like a lucky. She got set up. She got set up properly, and Grasso executed that move, man. Like, she was in control of the fight.
It was.
It wasn't.
Who was in control of the fight? Grasso?
I thought Grasso. Yes. So what? So Valentina
got the second round. When's the last time you saw this fight?
Not long ago. I think the better boxer out of that fight was Grasso.
March. You saw it once. You saw it in March. You didn't watch it again.
No, I just watched it again. Listen, I'm going to tell you something.
You're a liar.
Listen,
More
Valentina
lies.
could not. Valentina
That's
couldn't
lies.
stick. Valentina couldn't stick with her when Grasso was changing stances. When she went southpaw, she was getting clocked. So if Valentina cannot adjust herself to fight Grasso, who's going to change stance and get into a southpaw stance, the same thing is going to happen. I think the wear and tear is there on Valentina. I don't think her step is there. She can't keep the rhythm of a fight, especially on stand-up. Grasso is a better boxer, and she's going to show it again. She's going to come into this fight knowing she's already beat Valentina, and I love Valentina. She didn't lose in over 6 years prior to that. But the difference is that she's 35 years old, fighting over a decade with some of the most devastating fighters in that division. 59 pro kickboxing fights. Too much wear and tear. I think her time is done, and Grasso is going to be a much more dominant fighter coming into Saturday. With the hometown crowd behind you, holy smokes.
It's not.
Well, sort of.
I mean, it's in Vegas.
Yeah, but there's going to be a lot of Latinos in the house, man. Let me tell you.
So I watched the fight today just to, be prepared for the show. And Grasso won the first round. She outboxed Valentina.
Mm-hmm.
Second and third rounds, Valentina won. I mean, for you to say that Grasso was in control of the fight, I think is, just, maybe you're misremembering. But the second and third rounds, like Valentina won those rounds based on takedowns. She took her down. She controlled the fight. Grasso wasn't really able to land much. The second round was Valentina's. The third round was Valentina's. The fourth round was close, but it wasn't really clear who was winning the round, until the fight ended and Grasso got the rear naked choke. But the setup for that, I mean, it was very nice, but the way Valentina made a mistake. She did a spin move. She did like a spinning punch. Grasso kind of caught her back, jumped on her back. Valentina fell. Grasso just squeezed, and she was able to tap her. If Valentina doesn't make that mistake, I don't know if Grasso is champion right now. If it goes to a judge's decision, it would have been real close. I think Grasso was down 2-1. Maybe it would have been 2-2 going into the fifth, but that's a big maybe. So I think you're right, though, in the sense that Grasso outstruck Valentina in that fight. When it was a stand-up fight, Alexa Grasso was outboxing Valentina, heavier hands, faster hands. Grasso a little bit smaller than Valentina, and I think that's why Valentina was having success with the takedowns. But in that fourth round, she was slowing down. She got her takedown stuffed. It wasn't happening like it was in the second and third. She used a lot of energy to take Grasso down. She had her back at one point, I think in the second round. She looked good on the ground until she didn't, and she was tapping out. But Grasso did a lot to defend herself very well on the ground, didn't really allow Valentina many openings. And, Valentina got some takedowns and won some rounds, but she really wasn't able to do any kind of damage, improve her position on the ground, come close to any kind of submission. Grasso seemed to have a jiu-jitsu advantage where Valentina had a wrestling advantage, which allowed Grasso to defend positions, roll out of positions, and get back to her feet a lot when Valentina had taken her down. So I think it's a tough fight, but I think Alexa Grasso should win because she's younger, she's still improving, she's just entering her prime where Valentina is stepping out of her prime at 35 years of age. I've always said I think 35, 34, 35, you're wrapping up your career. 36, you're on the way out. 37, what are you still doing here? And anything past that, it's like, all right, unless you're a heavyweight or maybe a light heavyweight, maybe a light heavyweight, but any other division, it's like, all right, guys, it's a wrap. So Grasso right now, I think is just more primed. She's got the confidence now. She beat Valentina Shevchenko already. She knows if Valentina doesn't have too much for her standing up, that stance switching, like you mentioned, that Grasso was doing, Valentina really didn't have much of an answer for that, and Grasso was switching seamlessly from southpaw to orthodox. Really impressive stand-up from Alexa Grasso, and I think she keeps this fight standing. I think she beats Valentina Shevchenko. I think she defends the takedowns a lot better, and that'll leave Valentina no choice but to stand, and then she'll be in real trouble. I think Grasso wins this fight. I think Grasso wins by decision, though. I don't think she's going to be able to knock out Valentina. I got Grasso in 5 rounds over Valentina Shevchenko. Freddie, what do you think? We're both going with Grasso, the underdog. Does the bullet come back?
I don't know, man. I was leaning towards Grasso because I felt she did good in that first round, in that first fight. Like, I haven't watched the fight since it happened, but my memory of it was that Grasso was doing pretty good. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Grasso. Thing is Valentina, she's a decorated champion. If anybody's gonna bounce back from defeat and learn from it, I think it would be her. But 34, 35, I'm gonna go with the younger fighter Grasso, and I expect her to win by decision. That makes sense for me.
But her last two fights, when you look at like Valentina's last two fights, she doesn't look like the dominant champion that she was in the past. So this is the thing, and I'm on Dave's side here that you're hitting that 35 mark, but that wear and tear is showing, man. Because from a split to the loss, those last two fights have been not the Valentina that we used to say, holy shit, when she comes in there, man, she's gonna dance her way to a victory. It didn't look good, man. It didn't look good. I think the wear and tear is there, man. I think it's showing.
We'll see. But yeah, Valentina, in the Tyler Santos fight before the Grasso fight, she looked not great.
Not great.
And
not
people
great.
thought she lost that fight. And then, she wins the decision, but then the next fight, she does lose. So, yeah, I think, everybody's got their time. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing. You can be the greatest fighter ever. You can't fight, forever. You got to stop at some point. So I've got Alexa Grasso in the main event, and we all do. We are all going with Grasso over Valentina. Co-main event, we have Kevin Holland and Jack Della Maddalena.
He's good, man.
Della Maddalena right now, the favorite, minus 145. Kevin Holland plus 125, the underdog. Bet with us over at Bet99. Go to bet99.ringsidereport.net. It's the new thing. No promo code. Just go to bet99.ringsidereport.net. Takes you right to the page.
Wow.
You log in. You join that page. As long as you join by going to bet99.ringsidereport.net, you support the Ringside Report Network, and you can bet along with us over here. Holland plus 125. Della Maddalena minus 145. Della Maddalena's a pretty good fighter here. 27 years old, out of Australia, 15-2. He has won 15 fights in a row, coming off the Dana White Contender Series to get into the UFC. He's now won 5 straight in the UFC. Win after win after win. Looking really impressive. Kevin Holland, though, since dropping down from 185 to 170, has looked really impressive, too. Knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio, submitted Michael Chiesa back in July. Not wasting a lot of time here. Right back at it, Kevin Holland. I don't think he wins this fight, though. I got Della Maddalena.
It's a tough one to call because, like, Kevin Holland, man, he always surprises us. The thing with him is that he enjoys the fight. Even if he loses, as long as he puts out a good fight, he's happy. But when he fought Chiesa, man, he fought really well. He was focused, man, and he knew what to do. But you're right. Jack Maddalena, man, is a beast. Like, he came, like, his last fight against Basil Hafez there, it was scary. When he got taken down, his boxing skills were taken away. And that's the one thing where Kevin Holland can beat Jack in this fight is by taking him down to the ground.
He's not going to do that.
He needs to, because if he tries to stand up with his... I know
this guy doesn't wrestle.
Well, his takedown his grappling game is pretty decent, Dave. But that's
he's got good jiu-jitsu.
He's got good jiu-jitsu
when he gets taken down, but he doesn't wrestle.
Yeah, but that's where I'm trying to get at. Is if he's not able to take Jack down in the beanstalk, it's going to be a rough night for him. Because if he's going to trade toe-to-toe with Jack, it's going to be a rough night. It's hard. I really like Kevin Holland and the way he's been fighting lately. Like, he's dangerous. But this is going to be hard if he cannot take this guy to the ground. I mean, Basil did, and he still lost, but it was scary for Jack. But he was still able to survive. You know what? I don't think Kevin Holland is going to be able to take this guy down. I think Jack is going to be he's a force, man. This is a wave. This is a tidal wave that's coming. And he needs a name to his belt like a Kevin Holland.
Though. That's the thing, though. He has no names on his resume. Like, who's Basil, whatever his name is. Like,
yeah, you're right.
I mean, those aren't impressive wins. I'm gonna go with Kevin Holland, man. I'm gonna go with him mostly because he's fought a lot of bigger names than Maddalena. So I'm gonna expect Kevin Holland to be able to scrap with him. Madalena's a pretty big welterweight though, but so is Kevin Holland. So I think it's gonna be a good fight. Look, it could go either way, but I'm gonna pick Kevin Holland mainly because I feel he's been in bigger fights in his career as of yet, and he's been successful in many of them. So I got Kevin Holland.
All right, Freddie going with Kevin Holland. I'm going with the other guy.
No, look, and Freddie's right, but the thing is that Jack needs a name, and this is where Kevin Holland comes in. But yeah, there was a lot of like red flags on the last fight of Jack. And I'm like, was it one of those fights where they had to revise everything about his game? His ground game hasn't been really tested, but he was able to survive that last fight. And that's what I'm saying is that Kevin Holland has a strong chin, man. He can take shots, but he avoids a lot of shots to the chin. But that means he has to stand up. If he plays a stand-up game with Jack Madalena, it's going to be a rough night. But again, there was still a lot of red flags on Jack, even though he's coming in with what? You said 15 fights, right, Dave, at this point?
Mm-hmm.
He needs a big name on his resume, and Kevin Holland is the guy.
All right, it's parlay time. I'm going to give you the Team Dave parlay, and it's going to be a fun one this week. All right, guys, we're going to have fun.
Let's do it.
This. We're going with all Mexico.
Mexico.
It's a Mexico trifecta. Super Mexico parlay. And it's going to start, of course, with Alexa Grasso, plus 145. She got the win over Valentina last time. I think there's a lot of value in a defending champion coming in as the underdog. I like that a lot. And then we're going to jump around to a couple favorites from Mexico. We're going to go with, let's see. Uh-oh, I lost my parlay. Oh, no, it's gone. What happened?
What the hell happened, man?
Shut up, AJ. I'm trying to figure it out. Fucking AJ. What the hell happened? It's a little tricky the way they've set up their site now. It's a little different to make the parlays. I got to go into each fight and go to the money line. You seeing this, Fred?
Yeah, I know. I don't want to say nothing bad about partners, but I don't like it.
Yeah, the layout is a little bit different, and I'm struggling to put it together. And then when I had it together, it refreshed on me.So here it comes.
You'll have to talk to the boys.
What?
You'll have to talk to Bet99, man.
All right, shut up, AJ. God damn. Here is a parlay. It's a 3-fight parlay. It's a Team Dave parlay. We're going with Fernando Padilla over Kyle Nelson, minus 250 on the prelims. Then we've got Alexa Grasso in the main event over Valentina Shevchenko, plus 145. And Raul Rosas Jr., this is, I think, a setup fight for the UFC. They're trying to push this kid. Minus 850. He's a massive favorite. But, hey, let's throw it on to make it a more fun Mexican parlay. 20 gets you 76.67 over at Bet99.com. Plus 283 parlay here. 3 fights. Rosas Jr., Alexa Grasso, and Fernando Padilla. Team Dave.
Padilla.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? Fred, you got one?
Yeah, I got Alexa Grasso and Kevin Holland. Make it simple.
Oh, keeping it real simple. So Freddie's got Grasso and
the big Holland.
Kevin Holland for his parlay. Making my job over here way more difficult. Just wow, it's a double underdog parlay here from Fred, plus 451. It's pretty good. I like that. Alexa Grasso, plus 145. Kevin Holland, plus 125. 20 gets you 110.25 over at Bet99.com. It's a main event. Okay, stop. What the hell? Okay, Alexa, stop.
Alexa Grasso talking.
God damn, that's what happens when you say Grasso's first name. Apparently, I got one of those gimmicks in here.
That is funny, man.
Fucking hell. I'm glad Alexa Bliss is pregnant. I don't have to deal with that on the wrestling show. So Grasso and Holland here is the Team Fred parlay. 20 gets you 110.25 over at Bet99.com. That's a good parlay right there. I could see that cashing in. It's about time Fred had a winning parlay. It's been a little bit. If you're playing averages, it should be time for Fred. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got a point.
What do you got, AJ?
Man, it's going to be a tough one. So I'm going to go with the Grasso. I'm going with you guys on that. I mean, everybody is going with Valentina and every other site pretty much. But I think Grasso is going to pull it off. I'm going to go with Jack Della Maddalena. I think he's going to be able to outstrike Kevin Holland and take the victory. And that, you said it right. I mean, the Raul Rojas, the youngest UFC fighter in the game. This kid is unbelievable. I mean, he had to learn a lot from his last fight, and he's going to grow, and this kid's going to be a phenomenon. This guy is the future right here. And Terrence Mitchell, man, forget it, man. You're right. It's a setup fight. This guy came from the Alaskan fight scene, which is totally like, questionable. And he got like grounded and pounded in his last fight like there was no tomorrow. I think you're right, man. This is a setup fight for Raul. And then I'm gonna go with Zellhuber, man. Zellhuber is my pick on that. This kid is something. 24 years old, man.
I can't put that on the parlay. It's not available on the site right now.
Oh, it's not available. Damn it.
Skip it.
Well, regardless.
Skip it.
Zellhuber is or Huber or Hellhuber or whatever you want to call him. That's my guy. And then am I able to put down Padilla?
Yes.
Yeah, man. The guy. This is, man, Kyle Nelson. The guy is 2-4, man. He's got not the best skills in the game, man. I mean, and Padilla is. This guy is something. A lot of power. Like this, to me, it almost looks like another setup fight. But anyways, we'll see how he goes. But I'm going to go with Padilla for this one.
There you go. The team AJ parlay, very similar to the team Dave parlay, which worries me. But hey. I just didn't put Della Maddalena in my parlay because I think that fight, could go either way. There's AJ's parlay: Grasso, Della Maddalena, Raul Rosas Jr., and Fernando Padilla. $20 gets you $129.55 over at Bet99.com. I gave you Grasso, Padilla, and Rosas Jr. AJ added Della Maddalena into it to make it a 4-fight parlay. Bet99.ringsidereport.net. Bet99.ringsidereport.net. Okay.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Okay. I will be back here tomorrow night. Are we done? Are we good?
Well, I thought you were going to talk about, no Jake Paul, Dylan Dennis stare down.
I don't care to talk about Jake Paul and Dylan Dennis.
Awesome,
when
man.
are they fighting? October? Who cares?
Yeah, I care, man. I care.
Well,
I care
okay,
a lot.
we'll talk about it when the
intriguing
fight's a little closer. I mean, it's just a lot of shit talking and Twitter stuff at this point. I don't know.
Their face-off was I'm telling you, it's 20 minutes of entertainment, but it's really it made me look forward more to this fight more than ever. I mean, I want to see what's gonna happen. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, you should see what Logan Paul did. He hired the security guard that choked out Dylan Dennis back in the past. He's hired as one of his bodyguards. He brought him into the face-off. It was just crazy, dude. It was a crazy setup. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I mean, there's some, and then there's a bet as well, man. If they agree that this boxing match is going to be an MMA fight down the road, and you got to remember, regardless of what Dylan Dennis is, he's had a rough time lately and whatnot, but he was a 4-time champion, and that's the, if it goes into the MMA side, it could be quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a big joke. I don't care about
it. It is, man, but it's interesting, man. People want to see it, man. They got over 3.5 million. I was saying this before the show, 3.5 million views, on YouTube for the face-off. They got over 100,000 likes. I mean, people are looking to watch this. Yeah, you could say what you want, but you know what? People like entertainment, and obviously this sells. Not even, I was joking with Dave, but I might be correct. Not even Drake got that many hits this week. I'm just saying.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I can't prove it, but I'm pretty confident.
The TKO Group holdings went public. The WWE UFC merger thing happened officially this week. Vince McMahon is the chairman of TKO Group Holdings, which means he does have veto power over anything that the UFC wants to do, as does Ari Emanuel, who's the CEO of TKO Group Holdings. AJ, before the show, tried to tell us that this was a promotion for Dana White because he's not president of the UFC. He's now the CEO. But I had to explain to AJ that Dana's actually not on the board of directors of this new company. He has far more bosses than he did before. So I don't think this gives Dana more control. I think it actually gives him less control. But
I think what I was trying to get at is he gets a lot more money. I mean, there's a lot of factors. Everything has to be success, man, because the bottom line, it's a publicly traded company and shareholders want to see profits. So there's a lot of stress on the guy now. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think
a lot more.
He always has that, but I think he's starting to get phased out. I don't think he necessarily fits that whole corporate mold like a lot of the others do.
Ooh.
A lot of the,
honestly,
I mean, if you look at this merger and the board of directors, nobody really from the UFC is represented. The board of directors has people from Endeavor, which is the parent company of the UFC. It's got Ari Emanuel. It's got Vince McMahon. It's got Jonathan Kraft.
Lauren Epstein still there.
He's not on the board of directors.
Not on the board of directors,
No.
but he remains senior executive.
The people on the board of directors are people from the WWE and their board of directors and the Endeavor board of directors. But as far as the UFC, I think Lawrence Epstein, the guy you're talking about, he is I don't know what his official title is, but he's like
senior executive vice president and chief operating officer of the UFC.
So,
yeah,
cool. But he still has to answer to people like Ari Emanuel and Vince McMahon. And apparently he and Dana are not exactly on the same page. Let's see if I can get you this quote. Dana White was asked about something that Lawrence Epstein said. And here is his answer. Let's hear from the UFC president, Dana White, here.
Let's see here. Thoughts on Epstein? Lawrence said something to ESPN today. He said, where we want to get is where every UFC fan is a WWE fan, and every WWE fan is a UFC fan. Do you see similarities in the fan base, and how achievable is that goal?
Lauren?
Dana was laughing at that question.
I love you. One of the dumbest statements of all time. Yeah, I don't know why he said that. I don't even know what to say to that. No. There's some crossover. Some people like WWE, some people like UFC, some people like both. I don't think there's ever going to be a day where we turn every UFC fan into a WWE fan or every WWE fan. What's beautiful about the synergy between these two fan bases is they are very completely opposite. There's very little crossover. And again, maybe he was misquoted. I hope that's the case because I could not disagree with him more. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Very little crossover. Disagrees with that. Why wouldn't you want every UFC fan to be a WWE fan and vice versa? If they're all the same company, wouldn't you want because if everybody who's a UFC fan became a WWE fan, in addition to being a UFC fan, the WWE would have more fans. And if everybody that's a WWE fan all of a sudden became a UFC fan too, the UFC would have more fans. So why doesn't Dana White like this crossover?
Well, that's kind of hypocritical because,
I don't think he said he doesn't like it. I think he said it's not the reality.
The reality is, but Freddie, the reality
what
is
about
Brock Lesnar. Look at Brock Lesnar. When Brock Lesnar came into the UFC, man, it drove in all WWE fans, all Brock
but
Lesnar
how many
fans
of those
to the
fans
UFC.
are still there? How many of those
They're
fans
still
are
there.
still
I mean,
watching?
I think
Well,
there's a lot of crossover between UFC and WWE. I think more than Dana might expect. I think Dana might be surprised at how many pro wrestlers are big UFC fans. And
They're
he
always
might
there.
be surprised, vice versa, how many MMA fighters are big WWE fans. It goes both ways. The fans, I mean, it's not like everybody who likes WWE likes UFC, and vice versa. I know a lot of people that like UFC that don't like WWE, and I know a lot of people like WWE that don't like the UFC. But I also know a ton of people that like both. I'm included in that group. I think Fred's included in that group for the most part, although I'm not sure he likes UFC or WWE. I think he just likes NASCAR at this point, and jiu-jitsu. He likes professional jiu-jitsu and NASCAR.
And NASCAR.
That's really
But
what
you know
Fred
what?
is into.
It's kind of weird to say that because, like, you know, you look at guys like CM Punk that came into the UFC, you know, Brock Lesnar, you know, there's so many guys that crossed over as well, you know, like Ronda Rousey, man, off to the WWE. Like there's so many guys. So I'm kind of surprised, but
Okay.
I'm not surprised, you know,
AJ
from
just
Dana
put
White's
a
statement.
interesting name. Do you really think a lot of UFC fans became WWE fans when Ronda Rousey went to the WWE?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
And when Brock Lesnar came to the UFC, yeah, the wrestling fans watched it, but I think a good amount just watched Brock Lesnar.
I'll tell you something, though. You put a big pro wrestling name like Brock Lesnar or CM Punk in that UFC octagon, every pro wrestling fan is going to be watching that pay-per-view. You are going to draw a lot, and those are big draws, right? There's a reason why they signed CM Punk, who has no MMA experience, and put him on a UFC pay-per-view. There's a reason why they did that, because he's a draw. Because he's a bigger star than pretty much anybody in the company, and he was willing to fight. Brock Lesnar drew for the UFC in a major way because you got the UFC fans and you also got all the pro wrestling fans. That's just how it works, you know? But it doesn't work the other way necessarily. Like, if you put an MMA fighter in the WWE, MMA fans aren't going to go, oh, I got to see what that looks like in WWE. Like, no one really cares. You know, MMA fans are like, yeah, whatever.
Well, it's the mystique of it, right? It's like, you know, a WWE character is like a superhero. You know, you want to see that superhero win. And Brock Lesnar is that superhero. When he came into the UFC and he won, it justified and it actually made him more real as that character, man, in the WWE. And that went for me, too. When I looked at it, I'm like, this guy can walk and talk the talk in both organizations. You don't want to fuck with Brock Lesnar in the WWE, and you don't want to fuck with him in the UFC because he's able to handle it. You know, This guy is a champion, and that's the thing. And his mystique and stock went through the roof.
Of course it did, and I get it. But, you know, what Fred is saying is, you know, when Cain Velasquez did a match against Brock Lesnar in WWE, UFC fans weren't excited to see it. They didn't go and start watching WWE because Cain Velasquez was there all of a sudden. That's not how it works. If you want to draw people into pro wrestling, you got to give them something else other than, hey, this person used to fight in MMA and now they're in pro wrestling. It just doesn't translate the same way, you know, a fight you can make between, hey, here's a pro wrestler, let's see what they can really do in a real fight in the UFC. It's a different type of event. You know, it's a different type of thing.
So,
But Dana, I think, as a UFC promoter, should welcome the WWE and the crossover potential because, I just said, there's a lot of money to be made by taking some of these WWE guys and putting them in the octagon. And Vince McMahon, there's not a ton of money in taking some of these UFC guys and putting them in the ring because it doesn't really work. No one cares.
I agree, but if we go back to what Dana said, he's pretty much right because he's looking at his fan base. And he knows that his fan base in the UFC doesn't really care for the WWE. The vice versa might be true where Brock Lesnar comes in and CM Punk comes in and the whole wrestling community wants to watch it. But Dana White, as UFC president, he looks at his fan base and he probably says to himself, nah, my fan base doesn't really care that Ronda Rousey is over there or that Cain Velasquez is in WWE.
Yeah. But he's also saying, like, oh, we're not going to get all the WWE fans to like UFC. I mean, why not? Wouldn't you want to? That's what I don't understand. Like, it's that outright rejection where I go, come on, Dana. Like, there's money to be made here.
And I don't think he rejected. I think he just laughed at the notion of the guy saying that this would be the standard, that he wants all WWE fans to become UFC fans. Like, I think Dana's pretty much laughing at that possibility where he's like, no, that's not going to happen. That's not how our fan bases work.
I dream of.
Like, I don't see him saying like,
I dream of a world where that is true.
What?
That's what I want to see. I'd like to see it. I dream of a world where everybody is a WWE fan and a UFC fan, and they watch nothing else. Other sports don't even exist anymore. It's just combat stuff. Professional jiu-jitsu is there, instead of basketball and baseball and football and hockey and all that shit, it's MMA, it's pro wrestling, it's professional jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and maybe boxing there too. And those are the sports. That's all we do. That's my dream world. One day. One day.
The metaverse, man, it could happen. But listen,
well, maybe not getting rid of baseball. I mean, let's slow the roll on that.
Hockey, man.
I wouldn't get rid of baseball. I would get rid of all the other sports, though. Why not?
Man, you can't go wrong with the World Cup soccer, dude. It's hard.
You're getting rid of it.
Let's not forget
it's been
that.
axed. I've canceled it for the foreseeable
future.
Guess,
listen, man, you'll have to take back that France victory then.
That's fine.
I'm just saying.
You can take everything back.
What?
Except the Yankees. Don't take them back. I need them.
I know, dude. Yankee fans are huge Trump supporters. Did you see that big Trump flag that came down? What the heck happened at the stadium?
I didn't see that.
You didn't see that? Hey, I'm sure you didn't.
I didn't.
I was waiting. Like, that was my whole thing this week was like, oh, I got to send this to Dave. And I never had a chance to. I'm like,
yeah. The number of, like you send me a bunch of links and you send it to Fred and me. You send us links in our group chat. I don't think you realize that nor Fred or myself, we don't click on the links. It just doesn't happen. We never click on the links you send us.
They're entertaining, man.
And like, I never even discussed this with Fred, but I know he's not clicking on the links because I don't click on the links. I don't click on anything you send me ever.
That's terrible, man.
You know why?
I have to figure out a way how to do it.
Because you're like the boy who cried wolf, man. You keep sending me nonsense, and it's at a certain point, it's like, man, I know it's gonna be stupid. I don't want to click on this. Like, and nothing.
Click on it, man.
When you send me like 300 bullshit links, and then one of them might be good, I've already stopped clicking on them, man.
I'll click on it.
I'll tell you.
If Dave reacts to it. If Dave has a reaction to it, then I'm like, okay, I gotta see it. But yeah,
so I gotta up my game, man. I'm gonna have to up it. I'm gonna have to figure something out now.
I rarely click on your links that you send me because I really
I'm upping up the game.
Nonsense.
The game is upped. I'm telling you. The challenge is on. Just like Dylan Dennis and Logan Paul, the challenge is on, man. And we should do a watch along, by the way.
I haven't either, Dave. Haven't either what?
What? I sent Angelo a few links.
Oh, you sent Angelo some links too? Yeah, good. Don't click on it. Jeez.
Angelo, you better click on them, motherfucker.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Because it's dumb.
You better, Angelo. I swear, man.
Whatever it is, it's the worst part of the internet. That's where AJ resides, on the worst side of the internet.
Good stuff, man.
I sent you good stuff. The best?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you, Freddie.
All right, I'm about done. I'll be back tomorrow night to talk about pro wrestling. AEW's got a lot of stuff going on. AEW's coming to Montreal for 2 shows.
When?
December 5th and 6th.
Well, we should all go, man.
Yeah, I'm going.
Let's have some fun.
I'm going. I'm not going with you, but I'm going.
Come on, you motherfucker. You better. Get me some tickets there, cheapo.
No.
Ringside Report tickets.
No.
Why not? Is Johnny going?
I don't know.
I'm going to ask. Be fun, man.
I'm not. Well, I already got tickets, and I'm not going with you, so. Yeah.
I'll ask Johnny.
Okay.
Me and Johnny will go.
You do that.
Fred, unless Freddie wants to come, but it's going to be late.
Nope. So, yeah, that's happening, I think, December 5th and 6th. Collision on a Tuesday. They're taping Collision here, and then they're doing Dynamite live on the Wednesday at the Bell Center. Tickets are on sale now. There was a pre-sale this morning.
How much are they going for?
And I believe the pre-sale, it's still on. You can still buy tickets on the floor, in the Reds. There's all sorts of tickets available.
Yeah, but what's the range of these tickets? Are they like ridiculous WWE prices, or?
It's like you could get tickets on the floor for $75.
That's not bad at all.
You get tickets in the Reds a little closer for $140. Some tickets on the floor for $140. Some for $210. Like the first 3 rows are $210, then a little bit further it's $140, then a little bit further it's $75. Tickets in the Reds about $110, $140, depending on where you're sitting. So not too bad. And a bunch of tickets are available right now. I'm looking at the seat map. There's a bunch of tickets. Let's see. They got some seats here in the upper deck. What's the cheapest ticket available right now for AEW? Oh, this is Collision I'm looking at, but you could get a ticket for $110. Seems like maybe $75 is the cheapest ticket. Yeah. So that's happening in December. AEW's first show in Montreal. Finally. And I'm going to both shows for one reason and one reason only. I don't want to miss Bryan Danielson. And if Bryan Danielson's going to be in Montreal, I don't know what show he's going to be on. He might do a promo on one show and wrestle on the other. And if that's the case, I need to make sure I see the match. So I have to go to Collision and Dynamite to see Bryan Danielson. And I realize now that taping Collision on a Tuesday and then doing Dynamite on a Wednesday is going to be super weird, because Dynamite airs on a Wednesday and Collision airs on a Saturday, unless they're moving it to a Tuesday and not airing it on a Saturday. But if it's a TV taping and it's not a live Collision, Collision airs on Saturday, right? And Dynamite airs on Wednesday. So on Dynamite, you set up matches and you do promos for matches for Collision on Saturday. But if I see that on if I see the Collision on Tuesday and then Dynamite Saturday, they'll be like, this weekend, on Wednesday, or Dynamite on Wednesday. On Wednesday, they're going to be like, this weekend, I'm going to beat you in this match, da-da-da. And I'll be like, well, no, you didn't, because I saw it last night and you lost. That's weird, right? Do you guys get what I'm saying? Fred gets it. AJ, do you get it?
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, explain it. Yeah.
I do.
The order of it is weird.
But I don't know, man. This whole I don't follow wrestling. I just watch a show here and there. And this Tony Khan fella looks a little weird to me, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
In what sense?
Well, right now this week they're talking about that show they did in the UK where there's only 72,000 people that actually crossed the turn things there. And he's all claiming there was 85,000 or whatever. Even there, I saw some crazy wrestler got a tattoo on his arm about that. I'm like, that's a lie, man. Why are you tattooing a lie? Unless he plays it like a heel, that tattoo's stupid, man. But unless if he's hey, I was part of that 85,000 show, and he just plays with it and believes it, even though it's not true. But I don't know, man. Everything I see about Tony Khan just seems a little weird to me.
Yeah.
He seems like a rich boy with a lot of money to spend.
Yep. So that wrestler was Will Ospreay, and he got a tattoo with the attendance of 85,000 whatever. He got that tattoo, and then he posted about it on Instagram or something, and then the news came out 3 hours later that actually the real attendance was about 72,000. They said 85,000, but that's what pro wrestling... I mean, WWE has always done this. WWE says they have 100,000, but that's counting all the wrestlers, all the production staff, all the people that work in the arena, and it's, that's an extra 15, 20,000 people, whatever. They exaggerate the number. They tell you all the people that are in the building is, say, 85,000, but all the people that paid is 72,000 because they have a bunch of other people in the building for various reasons. It's a giant building. People selling hot dogs and popcorn or whatever. They all count in the number, right? But WWE has always done that. But then when AEW announced their number, everybody's like, oh, that's the real number. That's the real number. AEW wouldn't lie to us. They're not WWE. And I went, I don't know about that, brother. Let's wait and see. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's 72,000. So Will Ospreay, he posted the tattoo, and then I'm pretty sure he deleted the thing because people were like, "It's bullshit, Ospreay." And imagine how bad he must feel. He's proud. He's got this moment. He's from England. He did it in England. The show was in England. Like, it was a massive moment for him, a massive match. And he tattooed it on his body. It meant so much to him. And then it turns out, yeah, that was a work number. That wasn't actually the real number. And, it must feel awful for him. And, yeah, Tony Khan, I mean, his dad is a multi-billionaire and gave him money to buy a wrestling company and start this wrestling company that he seems ill-equipped to manage. Surprise, surprise. I mean, he's got zero experience managing a professional wrestling company. He's been given a multi-million-dollar budget and a bunch of volatile personalities, and shockingly, he can't manage it all. He's also given some of the top wrestlers in the company executive vice president roles, so they're wrestlers but also executives at the same time, which has never worked in the history of wrestling, but, whatever.
Well, Triple H.
Well,
right?
I mean, he was really mostly an executive when his wrestling time was done. Like, he was an executive that wrestled from time to time, like Vince McMahon. Like, when Triple H really became suit Triple H, executive Triple H, he didn't wrestle as much as he did. Like, he was married to Stephanie when he was on top and world champion, but he wasn't, the executive running NXT and all of that when he was a full-time wrestler. To be a wrestler full-time and an executive in the company is difficult to manage. Tough to say no to an executive vice president. Easier to say no to talent. But then when talent have issues with your executive vice president, well, obviously things can go wrong. Just ask CM Punk.
Which I saw a video of him blading at that show in the UK, and you clearly see him stabbing his forehead, which is clearly awful, man. I don't know.
They all do it.
Yeah, not a fan.
Have you seen Jon Moxley wrestle ever? He's like constantly bleeding. Jon Moxley got thrown over a table this week on Dynamite. I was watching Dynamite. He got thrown over a table. And then he comes out, he crashes, and then, he kind of huddles. And then he comes up, and his forehead is a bloody mess. I'm like, what cut you? You got thrown over a table. You fell down. Why are you bleeding from your head? I mean, it's just what he does. It's just all, bleeding every single week on TV. Every week. I've seen what that does to your forehead, man. It's not good. It's rough.
Old school, man.
Cauliflower ear, forget that, man. Cauliflower forehead. Some of these guys got these just dents in their forehead. Dusty Rhodes, Abdullah the Butcher. You ever seen Abdullah the Butcher's forehead? Nasty. Let me show you a picture of that, AJ.
Crazy, man. Let me see. It's the tattoo. I want to see the tattoo, man.
Get the tattoo, man.
Who does that kind of shit, man? It's like getting a tattoo of your girlfriend, and then it becomes an ex.
That's his forehead. That's just what it looks like from all the blades.
It looks like the character from Star Trek.
That's from all the blades. This is what Abdullah the Butcher just looks like. Consistent.
Look at that.
That's what'll happen.
Abdullah. Damn. No fooling around there, man.
That's what that fork will do to you. Turn you into Abby. That's where Moxley's headed. Hope Renee likes that look. All right, guys. We'll be back tomorrow night. I'll be back tomorrow night with Johnny North. Well, we'll talk more about professional wrestling and blading and maybe even Abdullah the Butcher. Probably not. I don't think he'll come up. All right. We'll talk about Bryan Danielson and lots of stuff going on in AEW world, some things in WWE. Is Jade Cargill going to the WWE? Is Edge going to AEW? There's a lot of that to talk about tomorrow night here on the Ringside Report Network. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Shout out to Angelo. Shout out to Miss Brooklyn, Leor, 1215%, Bob Burgers, DJ Bourne, CSL Lorne.
DJ!
Shout out to Lorne. Shout out to everybody tuning in here tonight. Appreciate you watching us here on the Ringside Report Network.
Just gave AJ like 3 shout-outs?
Who? Yeah, right? Bunch of fake AJ accounts out there. Fake-ass AJ. And I'll be back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after SmackDown with Johnny North for Pro Wrestling Talk, Wrestling Uncensored, right here on the Ringside Report Network.